All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Glenn here with my boy Jack. We're going to just talk about the Bears preview to the game versus the Texans. I'm going to start with some just kind of stats and background on the game, and then we'll have a little back and forth on the current state of the Chicago Bears organization. So, the Bears are playing at home versus the Texans. Texans are 1.5 point favorites. There's no sharp money coming in on this game. 54% of the bets are on the Texans. 54% of the money's on the Texans. Texans got the second best passing offense in the NFL, second worst rushing defense in the NFL. That being said, the Bears have the second worst rushing offense in the NFL. So that's kind of a weak versus weak, strength versus strength situation going on right now. Will Fuller is obviously suspended for the Texans, PEDs. Brandon Cooks is questionable, while Khalil Mack is questionable, even though it feels like he's questionable every fucking week. And Buster Screen's out. The one prop I do like on this game before we get too into it, over 19.5 rushing yards for Cordero Patterson. I think that's a home run bet. That's a lock of the century. But yeah, I mean, Bears coming off a absolute punch to the gut loss to the Lions. That being said, I think it was probably the best thing that we could hope for in that situation. I'll send this over to you, Jack.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's bleak right now when you're watching the Chicago Bears as a fan. I'll never believe in something like organizational tanking. I'm always going to root for the Bears. I'm always going to want them to win week in, week out, regardless of circumstances. As I'm watching the game, I could never be the fan who's like, God, I hope we lose this one. But losses are like last week, at the end of the day is probably a good thing because I think it means that it's clear cut. Nagy's gone. In my mind, it was already very clear cut that Mitch wasn't the guy. And, I think that's even more evident after last week.
And not to butt in too much here, but I was looking back at last week's stats and shit. If they end up winning that game, that's actually like a good looking win on paper because Komet's getting involved, getting a touchdown. The running game looks good. The quarterback played pretty well. Like, that's one of those games where if they get that W, even though it's meaningless against a shitty franchise in Detroit, like, that doesn't look that bad, and, like, the ownership can kind of start making an excuse for the coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it looks good. Like you said, there was definitely stretches where Mitch seemed fine. They were moving the ball. It was one of the few weeks out of the year that you could point to and sort of say, what was the defense doing type of week. I probably a little more hard on the defense than a lot of people might be. I look at that roster and say all our money's on that side of the ball. Where's Robert Quinn been? Khalil Mack is effective in spots, but I don't really get, our defense has been good, and which is fine. It's clear that our offense is the main problem, but when you're putting that much money on that side of the ball, like, you can't stop the 4-7 Lions or whatever they were. Like, I don't know, it's sort of a joke, but my opinion, everyone's got to go. Pace, Nagy, it's all out of here. Start with the clean slate and sort of roll from there.
I'll take it one step further, too. They need to start looking at getting rid of some of their young talent that they can actually get assets for. They need to start thinking about getting rid of, like, Roquan Smith, as bad as that would suck. He's like one of maybe 3 players we can actually get something for. They need to start thinking about getting rid of, like, Roquan, Eddie Jackson, players like that actually you might get a second or first, maybe if you get lucky, rounder for.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how you're trying to build. I'd like to think we could bring in a GM who probably knows what he's doing a lot better than someone like me or you per se.
True.
But those picks are always going to be valuable. There's nothing like the NFL where teams sort of turn it around quickly. Other sports, you got to bring in big free agents and kind of, it takes a lot more time. The NFL teams can build through the draft, and they can build quick. You get those last place schedules. Your schedule is sort of a breeze compared to teams who are good, and you're able to change things rather quickly. As far as a Roquan Smith trade, I don't know, but I would love to dump Khalil Mack's contract. I don't really know.
I don't know what you can get for it. Yeah, I don't know what you can get. He looks so bad. He looks so bad right now.
Yeah, I mean, give me Joe Brady and let him get a quarterback. I don't know, man.
Maybe.
The problem with the Bears is it's a sad state of affairs, man. There's so many organizations that you would think Chicago Bears, that's a cherished job. And right now, if those top tier those top tier coordinators that are out there, like, you know, like Joe Brady I mentioned, or Eric Bieniemy, those guys, if they got their choice, you think they're going to the Chargers or they're going to the Bears?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the Chargers. That's a laughable organization, but the Bears are just in a bad spot, and it's looking bleak. And then, you know, tomorrow, of course, Deshaun Watson's going to have absolutely nothing on the outside. You mentioned Will Fuller being out, Brandon Cooks being questionable, and you know he's just going to find
He's
a
still
way.
going to get 300
He's going to
yards.
find a way to beat that team and just remind us that we could have just drafted him instead of Mitch. So,
all right, to wrap things up a little bit here, what's your honest to God prediction for the game? You think the Bears get a win here? Do you think they lose? Do you think they get beat bad? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like picks on games go, I always say you got to stay away from your home team. Way too much emotion involved in picking the game. I'd like to say that I trust the Bears defense to, you know, come off of that embarrassing performance and kind of show out against a depleted Houston offense, a depleted Houston team. Really, they've been down all year. I mean, they don't have a GM or coach really at this point. It's sort of the Bears are in a bad spot, but Houston's also fairly laughable. They just happen to have a legitimate franchise quarterback, and that leads me to thinking Deshaun Watson's probably going to find a way to beat us, and you know, it's a bad spot to be in for the Bears.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that, you know, the Bears, you know, they're going to make the Texans one-dimensional in the fact that Texans don't really have a running game, and it's going to be all on Deshaun Watson. That being said, the defense looks so bad and has zero pride right now. I feel like the locker room's been lost with them, that I think that the Texans win and kind of easily. I think they control the game. I think Watson throws for like 4 fucking touchdowns. I think Bears fans are just going to get shit out again, and it's going to be another process of rebuilding and swallowing our fucking pride as Bears fans. Meanwhile, you know, franchises like the Chargers and the Texans are having great quarterbacks coming up, and we got Trubisky and a fucking handful of shit. You know, it's just terrible. So, yeah, I think Texans win. I think they control the game. And I think the Bears fans will just want to puke at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I keep saying the same thing, but it's a tough spot. Tanking isn't the way to go. Everyone says trust the process. Look at Philadelphia 76ers. Like, okay, sure, they've made the playoffs a couple of times, but they haven't accomplished nothing anyway. Like, tanking doesn't get you anywhere, so it's tough to advocate for that. But I'm always going to want the Bears to show up and win. But I just don't see that happening, especially not tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be watching. I'll be rooting them on. You know, I want the Bears to win, but right now I almost want them to lose because I want Nagy gone. I want Pace gone. I want a fresh start. But all right, go Bears! Thanks for joining again, Jack, and thanks to all you guys out there watching. Like, subscribe. Let us know how we can do better. And until next time, Bears.